Roughly around 2 weeks ago, I did a quick recap on Arnold's Halloween and its brilliant parody of the 1938 radio drama reading of War of the Worlds. This time we'll be taking a look at another Hey Arnold holiday special, the Veterans Day episode. Out of all the holiday specials that Hey Arnold is infamous for, this is one that doesn't get as much recognition compared to the others as said Halloween special or the Christmas special. But I feel like this is the perfect opportunity to give my discussion about it. Now yes, I know in my last announcement video I said that I wasn't going to do a video about this, but due to recent events going on in this country, I changed my mind. So with that said, let's take a look at the Veterans Day episode and see why this special deserves more acknowledgement from not just Nickelodeon fans and Hey Arnold fans, but to everyone. The episode opens with Arnold and Gerald leaving for school, excited that Veterans Day has arrived so they can enjoy their 3-day weekend. They talk about what activities to do from bowling to golf. When Arnold enters the boarding house, we cut to Grandpa wanting to tell his stories of his time serving World War II. But none of the boarders are interested in listening, so they walk away. Even Oscar steals his pudding under Grandpa's nose. With that, Grandpa and Arnold, as well as Gerald and his dad, are waiting in line at the ice cream parlor. Mr. Johansson talks about spending time with Gerald since he's too busy with work, but Grandpa states the opposite, that he and Arnold spend too much time together. However, they both agree that Veterans Day has gotten a lot less appreciative, with everyone using it as a 3-day weekend as opposed to a day dedicating to the veterans who fought in the wars and survived. Then they come up with an idea to have a long road trip to Washington, D.C. for the Veterans Day celebration. While driving, Grandpa starts telling his story. Back in World War II, he was working in the kitchens, peeling potatoes and washing dishes. He was given a task to drop a truck full of bad cham to an undisclosed location in France, not to be confused with Spam or the Vietnamese dipping sauce Noac cham. It's just so we're clear. While driving, one of his tires gives out and he goes outside to replace it. While doing it, Grandpa tells this part of the story.
I turned and saw the most horrible sight anyone could ever see. There, standing over me, with eyes glowing like fiery coals, was the Führer himself, Adolf Hitler!
Nein, Peter! Onkel!
While this part isn't true, wouldn't it have been awesome if it did? Grandpa giving Adolf Hitler a wedgie. I have no words. Arnold sees through the lie, and Grandpa admits that it wasn't true and continues on with the story. In reality, a group of Nazi soldiers raid the cham truck and take all the food inside. Grandpa tries to convince the Major, that the food has gotten bad. However, the Major wasn't convinced at all, thinking that Grandpa was doing reverse psychology on him. Grandpa then plays along with him and allows the soldiers to eat the food. The next morning, the soldiers get sick with food poisoning, and Grandpa calls his superiors, saying that he took down a group of Nazi soldiers, and later on he became a war hero. With Grandpa's story finished, Gerald is interested in hearing about his dad's time during the Vietnam War. At first, Gerald is intrigued.
I was only 19 when I was drafted. It was toward the end of the war, and a lot of young men didn't believe in the cause. Some of them ducked out and went to Canada on principle. But in the end, I decided my country asked me to go, and right or wrong, I had to oblige.
But as the story progressed, he started to become disappointed when hearing about what his dad eventually did.
I was assigned to the main office of the Army Medical Records Department as a file clerk. 227 files were dropped on my desk, and my job was to get them all checked, organized, and filed away by 1,700 hours.
But that was just at the beginning, right? I mean, after that, you got into some battles, didn't you?
Well, no, Gerald. Actually, I spent my whole tour in that office, filing and stamping and keeping things organized.
But you mean you never saw any battles?
Not really. I was too busy with my duties.
Oh.
When stopping at a motel for the night, Arnold and Gerald talk about how much of a letdown they felt after listening to their respected family members' time in the war.
My dad didn't do anything in the war.
Sure he did.
Oh, yeah? What?
Well, he helped file and organize all those papers.
Big deal. The fact is, my dad was just a file clerk. He didn't even learn how to shoot a gun. He didn't win any battles or save anybody. I don't see how it made any difference that he even went to Vietnam. I always thought he was a hero, but he wasn't.
Your dad's still a really good guy.
I know.
At least he told you the truth about what happened. He didn't make it all up like Grandpa did.
The next day, they arrived at Washington, D.C., watching the parade and taking pictures near the monuments and buildings. Grandpa shows Arnold a statue dedicating to his deed of stopping the Nazi soldiers, and Gerald and Mr. Johansson are at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial. While Gerald tells his dad that he's still proud of him, even though that he wasn't involved with combat, a war veteran with a cane calls out to Mr. Johansson.
Johansson? Private Johansson?
Yeah.
I knew it was you. It's Miller. Private Miller.
Private Miller?
You remember? Outside of Anlock? Back in 72.
I remember.
I was sitting in that rice paddy for hours. My platoon had moved on. I kept calling out for a medic, for anybody, but nobody came. But then you showed up, out of the blue. Private Martin Johansson. You kept looking at my leg and shaking your head. Then you took out some of those papers and poured something on them out of a bottle. Then you pressed them to my leg and taped it up around me like a bandage. The doctors couldn't figure out what I was doing there. They figured I should have bled to death. I kept trying to tell them it was Private Johansson. Private Johansson. I waited over 20 years to thank you.
I just did what I could.
The episode concludes with Miller introducing his family to the Johansons, and they watch the fireworks in the sky. Once again, this is another stellar Hey Arnold special. That's what makes this Nicktoon stand out once again by tackling a holiday that gets little to no recognition in mainstream media and puts their stamp of quality of mixing in the right amount of humor and heartfelt moments. Sure, you get a lot of Veterans Day specials on TV channels like PBS, seeing interviews from the veterans talking about their experiences with war, or even a live concert from Washington, D.C. honoring said veterans. But it's very, very rare when they target Veterans Day for kids. The only other one I can think of was a Doc McStuffins episode which aired on November 11, 2014. It even had a private screening at the White House with First Lady Michelle Obama and Doc McStuffins talking about the importance of Veterans Day and how the children were just as much heroes as the parents were. But why is the Veterans Day episode not discussed in detail compared to the other Hey Arnold holiday episodes? Hell, even compared to a regular episode. Well, I have two additional hypothetical reasons. First off, the Veterans Day episode came out a month before the critically acclaimed episode Helga on the Couch. That episode was very significant in showcasing more into Helga's backstory and dysfunctional family upbringing. Eventually, the Veterans Day episode was completely overshadowed. The second reason, and this is very important, the time that it aired, it was on November 1999, when America was pretty content and comfortable with little to no worldly struggles and wars. While we did have the Persian Gulf War in 1991, and to a lesser extent the Kosovo War in 1999, they only lasted for a few months and the conflicts were dealt much easier compared to previous wars. We didn't have a massive war that affected the country in at least a few decades. That all changed 2 years later when the attacks of 9/11 happened, and America went through a time of fear and uncertainty. Kids were told from their parents about what happened, and schools were giving lectures about the incidents. The USA would never be the same. The Veterans Day episode came out in a time in which kids would not appreciate a holiday like that compared to Halloween or Christmas. But nowadays, this Veterans Day episode is more important than ever, especially with the events that have been occurring recently. No, I really didn't want to dip into politics here, but I'm going to make the exception because I really need to point this out. If you feel incredibly insulted by this, then you can just stop this video right now. We have recently elected a president who does not appreciate our military. When a veteran soldier gave him the Purple Heart, a medal that is given to those who are wounded or killed in the war, he merely stated that he got the heart the easy way. He criticized John McCain on being captured during his time at war, saying that he wasn't a hero because he was captured. He insulted a soldier who died in the Iraq War in front of his own parents because he was Muslim. He called the U.S. officials and soldiers a group of losers. And finally, as of recently, he did not attend a single Veterans Day event. Not one. No phone calls, no visiting cemeteries, nothing. However, our former president, Barack Obama, did. That is embarrassing. The point I'm trying to make is that it's imperative now more than ever to give love and respect to those who sacrificed their lives to make our country safe. My two uncles and grandfather were in the military. Some of my colleagues have had families who were in the military, or even were in countries filled with war and had to leave for America for better opportunities. But now, we're not allowing them in because they could consider to be a threat. Well, I guess at this point we've forgotten about why America was considered to be the greatest country in the world. It was because there were so many cultures who came in together in peace. We learned different things from other countries, cuisines, technology, medicine, fashion, and many more. Regardless if you were born here or moved here recently, we are all Americans. Regardless if you have white skin or dark skin, we are all Americans. We're not split by race because we all share the same race, the human race. After all,
America was founded by the English,
but also by the Germans, Dutch, and French.
The principle still sticks, our heritage is mixed. So any kid could be the president. You simply melt right in. It doesn't matter what your skin, it doesn't matter where you're from or your religion. You jump right into the great American melting pot.
With that said, Hey Arnold's Veterans Day episode may have not gotten as much attention compared to other episodes when it first came out. It has gained bigger importance now. This is an episode that I highly recommend that you check out.